He arrived incognito, aiming to observe customer interactions firsthand. The murmurs from behind him confirmed his deepest fears. His seasoned Ford Ranger idled protestingly outside the dealership's glass doors as he switched off the ignition. The old pickup, a faded blue, bore numerous paint chips and a driver's seat patched with duct tape. No one paid him a second glance as he emerged, which was precisely his intention. Dressed in simple jeans, a canvas jacket and work boots coated in dried red clay, he seamlessly blended in. To any casual observer he appeared to be someone fresh off a job site, perhaps a welder or a roofer. Not a soul would guess that mere hours earlier he'd been in a boardroom signing paychecks for this very establishment. The dealership itself, a Chevrolet GMC joint, sat on the outskirts of Amarillo, Texas, neither sprawling nor ostentatious, positioned conveniently on a bustling thoroughfare. He'd acquired it 5 years prior, orchestrating a complete rebranding, overhauling the service center, and hiring a young, well-compensated team. Yet lately disquieting whispers had surfaced, whispers he found impossible to dismiss. Melinda, his assistant, had presented him with 3 distinct customer complaints in the last 2 months. All were discreet, all stemmed from Black or Latino clientele, and all shared a common thread: a pervasive sense of being patronized or outright ignored. He yearned to believe it was a mere misunderstanding, an isolated misstep, but a gut feeling gnawed at him. And so here he was, navigating his own dealership, completely unrecognized by the very individuals whose salaries he covered. Need assistance? A flat, unenthusiastic voice cut through the air. He turned to find a salesman mid-30s with receding hair, clipboard tucked beneath his arm, staring without a hint of a smile. "Yeah," the CO replied, feigning nonchalance, "looking for a truck." The salesman shrugged. "New or used?" Another shrug. "They're all over there." He gestured vaguely toward a line of dust-covered trucks baking under the midday sun. No guided tour, no handshake, no welcoming words. The CEO nodded, more to himself than to the salesman, and headed toward the used vehicles. Across the lot, a young Caucasian couple in their early 30s, both sporting golf shirts, emerged from a black SUV. A second, younger salesman with gelled hair and an overly enthusiastic smile, was already jogging to greet them. "Welcome, y'all," the younger man chirped. "Can I get y'all coffee or water while we take a look? AC's working just fine inside too, by the way." The CO absorbed it all. He paused at a silver Sierra 1500 clean, a recent model with a minor dent on the passenger door. The price tag read $24,300. He stooped to inspect the tires. Behind him, the first salesman reappeared, hands in his pockets. "That one's got some miles on it, but she runs all right," he mumbled. "How many miles?" "A little over 110. Maintenance record. Think we've got it on file. You want me to ask someone?" The CEO slowly straightened, taking a moment to survey his surroundings. The couple inside were already laughing with the second salesman. They hadn't even glanced at a single truck yet. He turned back to the man before him. "Yeah, I'd like to see the maintenance record and maybe take it for a test drive." The salesman sighed as if inconvenienced. "Sure. I'll get the keys." As the man ambled off, the CO retrieved his phone and opened his notes app. A swift entry: Silver Sierra 1500. Salesman unaware of mileage/records. 0 engagement. This wasn't about being difficult. It was about uncovering the truth. He caught his reflection in the truck's window. A man in his late 40s, a faint gray in his beard, hands still calloused from years before boardrooms. But his eyes were sharp. He remembered all too well the sting of being judged, of being dismissed by someone who presumed you had nothing to offer. That memory never truly faded. The wind picked up slightly, carrying with it a distant peal of laughter from the showroom. But what transpired next would cut deeper than he anticipated. The salesman returned 5 minutes later, keys dangling from one finger, a crumpled printout in his other hand. "Here's your record and the keys," he stated with all the warmth of a DMV clerk on their third shift. "Just bring it back in 20. The CEO accepted the paper, glancing at the sparsely filled maintenance log: oil changes, 1 tire rotation and a battery replacement. The dates didn't even align with the odometer reading. He folded the sheet and tucked it into his back pocket. "Thanks. Mind if I ask a few questions before I drive it?" The salesman looked at him as if he'd requested a foot rub. "Like what?" Accident history? Number of owners? You mentioned it runs all right. Does that imply issues? The man exhaled, shifting on his heels. It's been in a fender bender, nothing major. As for owners, maybe 2-3, don't quote me. And no, nothing wrong with it, I said it runs, didn't I? The CEO offered a tight smile. You did. Just figured I'd double-check since I'd be the one buying it. Another shrug. The man made no effort to conceal his impatience. But before he could turn away, the CEO added, if I had a polo shirt and a lease in my hand, do you think you'd be talking to me differently? The question hung in the air for a moment. The salesman blinked, unsure if it was a jest or something more. But instead of answering, he pivoted and walked away. The CEO didn't call after him. He simply stood there, keys in hand, watching the man disappear into the building. The lot was quiet now, heat shimmering off the asphalt. A truck horn blared from the road beyond the fence, but within the dealership walls, the reality of the situation was painfully clear. He slid into the Sierra and started the engine. The seats squeaked, the AC wheezed before grudgingly emitting warm air. He adjusted the rearview mirror and slowly pulled out, driving around the block. Gave him time to think. He desperately wanted to disbelieve that this was what his dealership had become, but everything he'd witnessed so far corroborated the complaints. Bias wasn't merely in the system, it was the system. He circled back, parking in the same spot, and stepped out. Inside, the showroom gleamed with bright lights and tiled floors. The couple from earlier were now comfortably seated, sipping bottled water, as the young salesman gestured at a digital screen. No one acknowledged him as he entered. Not the receptionist, not the manager engrossed in his laptop. He could have been a ghost. He walked directly to the front desk. Hey, I just test drove the Silver Sierra. I'd like to move forward on it. The receptionist, a slender woman with a severe ponytail, looked up. Which one? 2016 Sierra, Silver, 110,000 miles. She typed something, then looked back at him. Let me find someone for you. He waited. No smile, no, thank you for coming in, just a blank stare and the tap of keys. After another minute, the same disengaged salesman reappeared, clipboard in hand. Ready to talk numbers? Let's. They moved to a cluttered desk in the corner. The chair groaned under the CEO's weight. The salesman tapped at his screen with 2 fingers, slowly and irritably. You got financing or paying cash? Cash. That earned a quick glance. Really? Yeah. Problem? No, just most folks don't. The CEO leaned back slightly. I'm not most folks. They haggled over the price. The salesman attempted to push add-ons, warranty plans, undercoat protections, superfluous extras. The CEO declined them all, his voice steady but polite. He'd navigated this dance countless times before. Across the showroom, something caught his eye that twisted his stomach. A tall black man, likely in his early 20s, in a faded hoodie and jeans, stood awkwardly near the door. He clutched a folder, clearly waiting for assistance. No one approached him. No one uttered a word. The CEO watched as the young man took a few hesitant steps forward, then turned and walked out. No contact. No pitch. Nothing. The CEO's jaw clenched almost imperceptibly, but he remained silent. Back at the desk, the salesman slid the paperwork forward. Sign here if everything looks good. The pen was halfway to the paper when a voice from behind him rang out, sharp and frustrated. Why is he getting helped while I've been waiting here 10 minutes? That voice would change everything. Andre didn't raise his voice, he didn't need to. He stood there, calm, steady, unshakable, while the truth settled over the room like a thick layer of dust. In that moment, no one could hide behind polite smiles or corporate slogans. He turned to the white man who had initiated the outburst. You want to talk about fairness? Ask yourself how fair it is to judge a man based on nothing but his boots and jacket. The man mumbled something under his breath, but Andre didn't flinch. He wasn't doing this for him. He was doing it for the kid who walked out unseen, for the single mothers who came in hoping for help but were talked over, for everyone who never got a fair shot in places just like this. The salesman, still clutching the business card, looked as though he'd aged a decade in a minute. I've been patient, Andre stated. I believed in building a business that took care of its customers. Not just some of them, all of them. And I believed that if I hired good people, paid them right, gave them room to grow, they'd treat others with respect. He took a step closer. But what I saw today, that's not just poor service, that's failure. The finance manager had materialized, standing a few steps behind the receptionist. The younger salesman, the one who'd rolled out the red carpet for the couple earlier, peeked around the corner and quietly retreated. Andrei's gaze remained fixed. You think I didn't notice that the couple in the SUV got greeted the second they stepped out? Full smile, full pitch, waters in hand? And yet, I got a grunt and a finger pointed toward the lot. He shook his head, not in anger but in profound disappointment. I've worked too hard to let this place turn into a gatekeeping machine. The salesman stammered, Mr. Talbot, I didn't mean to. That's the problem, Andrei cut in. You don't mean to, but you still do. A silence descended upon the room now, not the awkward kind, but the kind that arises when everyone knows what has just been said can no longer be ignored. Andrei turned toward the finance manager. How long have you been working here? The man straightened. 3 years, sir. And how many times have you seen something like this happen? The manager looked down, hesitant. That's what I thought. Andrei turned back to the desk, picking up the pen again, not to sign the paperwork but to strike through his name. One strong line straight through the contract. I won't be buying anything today, he announced, loud enough for the room to hear. The salesman's jaw dropped. But it's a solid truck. We're already halfway through the paperwork. You didn't sell me that truck, Andrei said. I was already sold when I came in. You just gave me a reason not to close. Pause. Then he added, and after today you're done. The salesman blinked. What? You're fired. Effective immediately. The manager took a cautious step forward. Should I call HR? No need, Andrei replied. I'll handle it personally. The man stood there, stunned. Andrei didn't ask him to leave, he didn't need to. The silence from every corner of the room was louder than any goodbye. He turned back toward the other employees, watching from behind desks and corners. If you think your job is to move vehicles, you're in the wrong business. Your job is to serve people. All people. The truck is the product. Trust is the sale. He let that sink in. Then, softer now, almost as if speaking to himself, he added, I built this place so folks wouldn't have to feel like they were proving something just to be taken seriously. And if I have to tear it down to fix that, I will. But just when it seemed the message had landed, something unexpected would push him even further. Andrei turned to leave. He wasn't storming out. He walked with the quiet certainty of a man who knew who he was. But before he could take more than a few steps, the customer holding the car keys, the one who had complained earlier, spoke again. You think you're teaching some lesson? That's great and all, but you can't fire a guy just because your feelings got hurt. Andrei stopped. He didn't turn around right away. He closed his eyes for a second, jaw set, holding back the wave building in his chest. When he finally turned back, his face was unreadable, but his voice was low and steady. I didn't fire him because my feelings got hurt, Andrei stated. I fired him because he doesn't know how to treat people with basic respect. There's a difference. The man scoffed, arms folded. You're overreacting. So he didn't roll out a red carpet for you? Big deal. That's not racism, that's just, maybe he was having a bad day. Andrei stepped forward, closing the distance between them by half. You know what's wild? He said, his voice calm but louder now. I want to believe that. I wish it was just a bad day. I wish it was a one-off. But it's not. I've got complaint emails from customers who look like me telling me the exact same things I lived through today. And now I've seen it for myself. He pointed around the showroom. I watched a young man walk out without anyone saying a word to him. I watched this team ignore someone standing at the door, not once, not twice, but consistently. That's not one bad day. That's a culture. A hush had fallen again. The few customers still in the building had stopped browse, their eyes darting toward Andrei. Some with curiosity, others with guilt. The man shrugged. Whatever. Seems like you're just pulling the race card to feel important. The sentence hit like a slap in the face. Andrei took a slow step forward, his voice not rising, but carrying more weight than anything he'd said before. You don't know what it's like to walk into a room and feel the temperature change because of how you look. You don't know what it's like to be asked what you do for a living before anyone shakes your hand. You don't know what it's like to have someone explain a contract to you like you can't read. He shook his head. And maybe you never will. But don't you dare stand here and pretend it doesn't happen. Not when you just watched it. The man didn't respond. Andrei looked around the room again. He wasn't speaking to just one person anymore. He was speaking to all of them. I didn't grow up with much. My mom cleaned motels, my dad laid concrete until his back gave out. They didn't have connections, no backup plan, just pride. They taught me to work hard and never make excuses. And I didn't make excuses when people called me names, or locked their car doors when I walked by, or watched me shop like I was going to steal something. He paused, his voice cracking slightly, not with weakness but with truth. I made it anyway. I built something. And I made damn sure to treat people better than how I was treated. That's why this matters. Because what we do here, how we greet people, how we answer their questions, how we make them feel, it says everything about who we are. He let the silence return. No one interrupted. Then slowly the man who had caused the scene turned and left. No apology, no words, just walked out. Andre looked at the employees one last time. This place needs to change starting today. But just as he thought the moment had passed, someone spoke up, and it wasn't who he expected. From the far end of the showroom, a quiet voice broke through the silence. Mr. Talbot? It came from a young woman near the service counter, mid-20s, soft-spoken, hair pulled into a tight bun. Andre turned to her slowly. He recognized her barely. She worked part-time in the back office, mostly behind the scenes with paperwork and invoices. Her name escaped him for a second. Danica, she said gently, almost as if she could read his mind. He nodded. Danica, right? She stepped forward, her voice steady now. I've been here almost a year. I've seen things I wanted to say something about, but I figured no one would care. Andre didn't say anything, he let her continue. I've seen how certain customers get passed off, how the tone changes depending on who walks in. And when I tried to bring it up to a manager once quietly, I got told to mind my pay grade. So I did. I stopped talking. Andre's face didn't move, but something in his eyes softened. Danica looked around the room. She wasn't just speaking to him now. I thought it would change eventually, that someone higher up would notice. But maybe we all thought someone else was going to say something. Andre took a slow breath, then walked toward her. I appreciate you saying it now, he said. She nodded. It needed to be said. He turned back to the rest of the room. Everyone looked different now. Some were ashamed, some were unsure, a few avoided eye contact altogether. I didn't come here to embarrass anyone, Andre said, but I had to know for myself. I had to see what's been hiding behind politeness and excuses. He looked back at the receptionist, who was now staring down at her desk. You knew something was off too, didn't you? She didn't answer at first, then quietly, yeah. Why didn't you say anything? I didn't want to lose my job. Andre nodded slowly. I get that. But silence lets this stuff grow. The longer we stay quiet, the worse it gets. And then one day, we look around and realize the place we work doesn't resemble the place we thought we were building. He paused. Accountability isn't just about pointing fingers. It's about fixing what's broken together. The room remained still, as if waiting for the next shoe to drop. Andre stepped back toward the desk where the paperwork still sat. The half-filled contract, the crossed-out signature, the pen. He picked up the business card he'd dropped earlier and held it up. This card doesn't mean I know everything. It just means I've got a little power. But what good is that if I can't use it to make things better? He looked over at the fired salesman's desk, now empty. I'm not just making one example. I'm changing how we do things here, starting today. He looked toward Danica. You want to help me with that? She blinked. Me? Yes, you've seen what needs fixing. That makes you valuable. I want someone on the inside who isn't afraid to speak up when something feels wrong. Can you do that? Her voice trembled just slightly. Yes, I can. Andre smiled, the first genuine smile of the day. Good. Let's get started. He turned to the rest of the staff. There will be a meeting tomorrow morning, mandatory. We're rewriting some things, not just on paper but in how we show up for everyone. He let his words hang for a beat, then walked toward the front doors. The sun outside was blinding, but he welcomed it as he stepped back into the heat. His phone buzzed, a text from Melinda. Everything okay? He typed back. Not yet, but it will be. But there was still one more thing left to do, something that would close the loop on what he came here for. Andre didn't immediately get into the old Ford Ranger. Instead, he walked past it, toward the sidewalk, toward the street, scanning left and right. He was looking for someone. And just when he began to think it might be too late, he saw him, the young man from earlier. He was standing under the shade of a bus stop across the road, headphones in, folder still tucked under his arm, same faded hoodie, same quiet posture. He was staring off down the street, waiting for something that wasn't coming anytime soon. Andre crossed quickly. "Hey," he called out. The young man looked over, cautious. Andre slowed as he approached, raising one hand like a peace offering. "Don't mean to startle you. I saw you earlier in the showroom." The kid pulled out one earbud. "Yeah. You were waiting to be helped, but nobody did." The young man nodded once. It wasn't the first time. Andre tilted his head. "You come here often?" "I've been looking for a truck, something used. Nothing fancy. Been to 5 places in the last 2 weeks. Same story every time." Andre sighed. "What's your name?" "Ezekiel." "Ezekiel," Andre repeated. "I'm Andre. I own that dealership over there." Ezekiel's eyebrows lifted. "You're serious?" "Dead serious." Ezekiel chuckled once, not bitter, just surprised. "Man, I thought you were just another guy getting the same treatment." Andre gave a small smile. "I was." He stepped closer, lowering his voice a little. "I came dressed like this on purpose to see how my team was treating people when they didn't know who they were dealing with. What I saw today, I'm not okay with it." Ezekiel studied him. "So what now?" Andre reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. "You still need a truck?" Ezekiel nodded slowly. "Come back in with me. Not as a customer this time, as my guest. I want you to sit down with Danica. He's someone I trust. And we'll find you something reliable that fits your budget. You'll get the respect you should have gotten the moment you walked in." Ezekiel didn't answer right away. He looked at the building behind them, then back at Andre. His voice was low. "You don't have to do that." "I know," Andre said. "But I want to." There was a long pause. Then Ezekiel gave a nod, a real one, the kind that says, "All right, I'm in." They crossed the street together, side by side. And as they stepped through the glass doors again, something felt different. People noticed. Employees stood straighter. A few looked ashamed, but no one turned away. Danica was already at the front, ready. She nodded once at Andre, then greeted Ezekiel with a kindness that felt like it had been missing for too long. Andre didn't hover. He stood back, arms folded, just watching. This was why he started this business in the first place. Not just to sell vehicles, but to build something better, something honest, something fair. And somewhere along the way the culture had drifted. But it wasn't too late to fix it. When Ezekiel was seated and Danica began pulling up options, Andre finally stepped outside again, this time for real. He got in his old Ranger, started the engine and sat still for a moment. There was no speech playing in his head, no swelling music, just the hum of the engine and the warm wind drifting through the open window. He'd made a decision that day. Not just about a truck or a staff member or a business, but about the kind of legacy he wanted to leave behind. Not just as a CEO, but as a man. A man who showed up even when it would have been easier to stay silent. A man who remembered what it felt like to be overlooked. A man who didn't just talk about change but made damn sure it started in his own house. He shifted the truck into drive and pulled away, slow and steady, fading into the sun. Some people earn their title with a degree. Others earn it with time. But the ones who truly deserve it are the ones who never forget where they came from and use every inch of their power to lift others up. If this story resonated with you, please share it and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that speak truth, no matter how hard it is to hear.